education and entertainment to Pep TV. For sports, security and businesses, tune into Pep TV. For good programs, education and entertainment to Pep TV. For sports, security and businesses, tune into Pep TV. Pep TV. Pep TV. Pep TV is the best. Pep TV. Pep TV. Pep TV is the best in town.
Pep TV.
Pep TV.
Pep TV.
Your number one educational station in Nigeria. Keep your events memorable. Visit Pep TV today for your general event coverage like symposium, school inter-house sports, end of the year party, religious program, musical shows, and all social events like wedding, naming, housewarming, launching, rallies, and more. For inquiries, call 080-656-14289 or 070-865-33935 or 070-515-35081. Location, plot 72, Akorede Layout, Felele Straight End, Ibadan. Pep TV, enlightening the myriad populace.
Pep TV.
If you ask me, now who I go ask? No matter where we see, so you tell your start. Maybe big or talk, be heavy for mouth. If you ask me, no matter for ground, oh, now who I go ask? If you ask me, now who I go ask?
Alright, you are welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are listening to Child Abuse Alert with CYRIL ISI live on Pep Radio Felele Ibadan. Alright, let's quickly take a look at some of the stories that made the headlines in recent times that has to do with child abuse. Oyo State government arrests man for torturing his 7-year-old daughter. Oyo State government arrests man for torturing his 7-year-old daughter. The Oyo State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Inclusion's Rapid Response Rescue Team on Sexual Gender-Based Violence and Child Abuse has rescued a 7-year-old girl named Antonia Apinex Bassi, who has been a victim of physical abuse, torture, and assault by her biological father. The father was arrested in Ibadan following a report made available to the Rapid Response Rescue Team of the ministry. Briefing newsmen in her office about the incident, the State Commissioner for Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Inclusion, Alaja Fausat Zoni, who confirmed the incident, described it as an inhuman treatment meted out to an innocent child. According to her, they received a report of the incident through a social media handle of someone living in that community on their Rapid Response Rescue Team media platform that one Mr. Happiness Bassi, who lived at number 20 Joseph Ayantoye Street in New Ikoko, Ashi, Bodija, Ibadan, allegedly abused and inflicted injuries on a 7-year-old daughter who, as a result, has scars and bruises all over her body. The father, who works as a security man with an undisclosed outfit, constantly tortured a child for no reason yet to be explained, and they also learned that the mother of the child, who is also the wife, has traveled to their village in Akwa Ibom State to give birth to another child, and left Antonia with her father, who subjected the girl to abuse and instructed the poor girl to always tell anyone who asks about the marks and bruises on her body that she fell, as a cover-up story for his evil act. As soon as the ministry got the report, they swung into action to rescue the child and equally arrested the abuser for further investigations at the Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Protection Unit of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, or your State Command, Your State Command Headquarters Office at Agodi. The child has been taken to Uni and Sons Children's Hospital at Ring Road, Ibadan, for medical examination and treatment, while the ministry also has made adequate provision for alternative care and support for the child, and they are also on contact tracing of the wife to get details of the details about the family. Oyo State government arrests man for torturing a 7-year-old daughter. Well, this is a clear case of child physical abuse. Every now and then we keep having different cases of child abuse coming, making headlines on the media. This one just happened to be one of the physical case of one of the cases whereby we have a physical abuse being meted out to a young girl. But unfortunately, this the culprit or the perpetrator in this case happens to be the father of this 7-year-old girl. The father is the one actually physically abusing the child. Today I said we'll be looking at some of those warning signs, and I think I want us to start looking at it now from this particular story of this little girl that was abused physically by her own father. Now, we are not told the crime the girl committed. All right, we were not told whether the girl, was sent on errand or the girl did something wrong. That was why the father decided to maltreat her or to inflict injury on her. We were not given any kind of explanation. The story didn't give us that detail, but we were told that the father has been constantly abusing this little girl to the point that she had physical scars on her body with eyes swollen, bruises all over her body. And it took a neighbor, a concerned neighbor who observed it to come out and the neighbor didn't actually even confront the father, as the case may be. The neighbor actually reported it, tagged the Oyo State Ministry of Women Affairs, tagged them on their social media platform to report this case, and they swung into action and arrested the offender in this case, and they took the victim to the hospital where she is being given the required medical attention that she deserves. Now, there are lengths or there are levels we can get to when it comes to correcting a child. I want to assume that maybe this child was misbehaving, or the mother is not in the home. The mother has gone to the village to give birth to another child, so the child happens to be living with the father, and probably the little girl, maybe she's stubborn. I'm just assuming. We were not told. Maybe she's stubborn, or maybe she's not listening to instruction, or maybe she refused to run errand, or just let's assume any of those kind of flimsy excuses. But it is not enough for the father to inflict physical injuries. The point I'm trying to raise is this: if you want to correct a child, there are levels to which you correct a child. You can correct a child if the child misbehaves without actually inflicting physical injuries on the child. You can correct a child for stealing. You can correct. We advocate discipline. I am not a party to don't touch a child in the name of child abuse. So because you don't want to touch the child misbehaves, you leave the child or you pamper the child. No, I am not an advocate to that. I stand with the school of thought that you have to discipline a child. We actually told to train up a child the way the child should go, so that when the child gets old, he or she will not depart from it. I am in full support of that. But if you have to discipline a child when the child commits an offense, there is a level you have to get to. You don't discipline a child and inflict, beat up the child like you are beating an adult. You don't inflict injuries with the child having swollen eyes, mark of canes all over her body, sores all over her body, as if she stole something big. Like the story we had of those two teenage boys, in our last episode, that the two teenage boys actually stole phone, and they were mobbed, they were beaten to the point that, they were not only beaten, they were beaten to pulp, and at the end of it, they set them ablaze. Now, this little girl we were not told that she stole anything to warrant that. I just believe our offense might have been maybe she went on the bed, or maybe she bed wet, or maybe she refused to watch the play, or maybe she refused to run errand. But for the father to have treated her the way he did is absolutely wrong. So parents out there, and including teachers, because teachers always fall victim of this. You want to correct the child in the school, you beat the child, flog the child, most especially in public school. Please, there's a limit to which you should use physical if you are using if you want to correct the child, there's a limit to which you can go so that you don't inflict injuries on the child. When the child starts sustaining terrible injuries and sores all over it becomes child abuse, and it's actually a punishable offense. I want to tell you that if this man is, after the investigation is carried out, this man will actually be given the required punishment that he deserves. So you don't beat up a child. When I mean beat up a child, now you don't maltreat the child, inflict physical injuries on the child, make the child to have bleeding or sores all over the body just because the child committed a crime. Please, that is physical abuse, and I'm still going to talk a little about it if time permits. All right, let's quickly look at the major one, that we want to discuss today before I quickly jump into our topic for today, if time also permits, because I'm far behind schedule. 2 Anambra pedophiles caught red-handed, victims' kids traumatized. The Nigeria police in Anambra State has arrested 2 pedophiles in Oka Sat and Iyala local government areas who raped 2 preschool girls aged 5 and 4 years respectively. One of the sexual predators, 27-year-old Shinonso Ugoshuku, also known as Nepa, was arrested in Umuaku, Uli in Iyala local government area. The police said he lured a 5-year-old girl into his room and raped her. He was arrested by the police operative attached to Uli Division. The suspect hailed from Undikoku, Umuaku, Uli in the same Ihala local government area. According to the spokesman of the command, XP Aruna Mohammed, policemen who arrested the predator said the 5-year-old was traumatized and had been taken to the hospital for medical examination. The day after Shinonso was arrested, policemen attached to the commissioner of police in Oka arrested another pedophile, Sunday Eyim. The 31-year-old Eyim is from Odwana village, Amoba, in Oka Sat local government area of Anambra State. He also lured a 4-year-old girl into his room and defied her. The scene was visited by police detectives and victim taken to the hospital for medical examination. Daughters have allegedly confirmed penetration. The Commissioner of Police, CP John B. Umbal, has directed that the case be transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department, OCA, for discreet investigation, after which the suspect will be charged to court. Police spokesman XP Aruna Mohammed has once again warned parents and guardians to be watchful over their children. He urged them to educate the kids to be wary of strangers and also encourage them to report any person making sexual advances to them. The public should also be security conscious at all times and always report suspicious rape cases in their neighborhood to the nearest police station for prompt action. All right, that is 2 Anambra pedophiles arrested. They were arrested, or they were caught red-handed. Why actually defied 2 little girls, age 5 and age 4, in Anambra State. This case of pedophiles sexually abusing little children, it has always been rampant. But you find that most of the time, the reported case, the ones that actually hit the headlines are usually few. But we have this thing happening everywhere and at every time. Unfortunately, a lot of people really do not come out to actually report these incidents. Well, this is a terrible one. The 2 girls were actually raped at different intervals. They were actually abused at different intervals. But it's a clear case of child abuse. And according to the Child Rights Act, Part 3, Section 31 and Section 32 clearly stated that if an adult have any sexual intercourse or have any kind of penetrative sex, whether it is vaginal sex or anal sex, with a minor, that person has committed an offense. And upon prosecution, if that person is properly prosecuted by a competent law, the person will be sentenced to life imprisonment. So if this case is properly handled, these pedophiles will definitely be sentenced to life imprisonment. That is why we say, I will always keep repeating this. At every single opportunity I have, I will always keep saying this. If you don't want to do the time, don't do the crime. If you don't want to spend the rest of your life in jail, don't abuse a child. Don't rape a child. It is a big offense. It is a criminal offense. Don't rape a child. If you are having sexual urge, go and look for somebody that is of your class, of your age mate, and satisfy your sexual urge. You don't use children to satisfy yourself sexually. It is absolutely wrong. And when we're talking about sexual abuse now, I will always say it is not only rape. It is not only when a child is being raped or there's a penetrative self involved that we say the child is abused sexually. If you get a child involved in any kind of sexual activities, whether it is rape or whether it is intercourse or non-intercourse, you have committed an offense. It could be kissing a child, it could be touching the child's private parts, it could be exposing the child to pornography or masturbation or voyeurism or exhibitionism, or taking naked picture of the child to sell or put on social media. Any kind of sexual activities that you involve a child with, you have committed an offense. And if you are if you are caught and prosecuted, if it doesn't have to do with intercourse, you are liable to 14 years imprisonment. But if it has to do with an intercourse, that is rape, you are liable to life imprisonment. So these two pedophiles will definitely be spending the rest of their life in jail. So if you don't want to spend the rest of your life in jail, please don't abuse a child sexually. And when we are talking about a child this time around, anybody below the age of 18. So the person might just be 17 and very big, and you think you can just molest the person sexually. No. Anybody below the age, even if the person is above 18, you don't have any right to abuse anybody sexually. You actually don't have any right to abuse anybody sexually. It's an offense, whether you do it to an adult or you do it to a minor. And when it comes to minor, there is nothing like consent. So don't abuse children. It is very, very important. And if you look at the strategy involved in this one now, they actually lured these two little girls. They must have given them biscuits. They must have given them sweets, like the story we had last week of the 66-year-old man who will always buy candy, chocolate, and biscuits and use it to lure the children in the neighborhood to his house. Then he will defy them. These two pedophiles must have done the same thing. Give them sweets or give them biscuits or even give them money, and before you know, they lure them into their house and rape them. Please, let's say no to every kind of sexual assault against the child. Let's say no to every kind of sexual assault against the child. Quickly, I will go for a short break. When we return, we will quickly dive into our topic for discussion for this week.
Make una dey alert, make una shine una eye korokoro, because say people wey dey sexually abuse small pikin be like lion wey dey waka up and down dey find person wey wan destroy. No allow your pikin fall for their trap o. Abeg, learn the corny ways wey dem dey use and how to prevent am.
These people full everywhere dey plan how and wetin to do so that dem go fit abuse your pikin o. Pedophiles and sexual predators dey everywhere. 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 6 boys go suffer child abuse before dem go reach 18 years. No gree make your pikin fall victim o. Make una dey lis ten to child abuse alert so that una go learn how una pikin go dey safe.
Say no to child sexual abuse.
This is PEP Radio for quality entertainment, education, enlightenment, and information. Log on to our website on www.pepradio.com or download our app on Google Play Store. PEP FM Radio, enlightening the myriad populace.
If you ask me, now who I go ask? The matter where we see, so you tell where it starts. Maybe big or talk, be heavy for mouth. If you ask me, the matter for ground.
Alright, you're welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are listening to Child Abuse Alert with CYRIL. It's live on Pep Radio Felele Ibadan. Quickly, let's look at some of the warning signs of child abuse. Warning signs. How do you get to know when a child is going through one form of abuse or the other? Okay, before we start looking at some of the warning signs, now I want to take a little time to explain, the different. When we talk about child abuse, a lot of people will just think that, hey, it is sexual, it's because it's usually when it has to defilement, when it has to do with rape. That is when you have a lot of people a lot of people raise their voice against it. But child abuse is not only a sexual abuse or rape. It also has to do, it could be physical abuse, it could be emotional abuse, it could be sexual abuse, and at the same time, it could be neglect. So there are actually 4 aspects of child abuse. So whenever we're talking about child abuse, hey, if you see a child that is being abused, hey, please report. When we're talking about it, it's not only sexual abuse. A child might be going through physical abuse, like the case of that young girl that we just narrated in our stories. One of the stories that made the headline. That was actually a clear case of physical abuse. Now it could be emotional abuse, it could be sexual abuse, then it could be neglect. So when you see any of this, please, we always encourage that you have to report. It is very, very important. All right, what are the warning signs? What are the what can you actually see in a child to help you to know, that this child is actually going through one form of abuse or the other? Let's look at them. When it comes to physical abuse, there are some signs that, there are some obvious signs that can be a pointer, that can be an indicator that a child is going through physical abuse. Now, the first one could be bruises, burns, sprain, dislocation, or bites. When a child is having bruises all over the body or burns, some parents or some guardians will go to the extent of actually putting hot, probably iron or something hot on the fire and use it to burn the child, just because they want to correct the child. Now, when you start seeing scar on the child's body, start seeing burns or sprains on dislocation, know that that child is going through one form of abuse or the other. Now, listen, the abuse might be coming from the parents. Now, that doesn't mean that you should keep quiet. So if you are a school teacher and you detect that a parent is abusing his or her own child, it's still your responsibility to speak up for the child, because every child is your child. You cannot say, oh, it doesn't concern me, after all. What is it is your business. Every child is your child. So if the parent of a child is actually abusing a child, you have the responsibility to report. You have the responsibility to speak up for that child so that the child can get help. Then another sign that you can use to know is improbable excuse given to explain injuries. Then we could have injuries which have not received medical attention. That is very, very common. You have injuries on a child's body without any kind of treatment. So you see a child with swollen eyes with no kind of treatment. You have a child having sores all over the body with no treatment. That is also a clear case of child abuse. Then you can also have injuries that occur to the body in places that are not normally exposed to falls or rough games. Also, we have when a child refuses to discuss injuries. When you are interrogating a child and the child is refusing to speak up, that child is definitely going through one form of physical abuse or the other. Then when you have a case of a child being afraid of going home, a case of a child being afraid of going home or going seeing the parents or maybe even the teacher, that could be also a clear case of child abuse, physical abuse. So you will have to make sure you speak up. It is very, very important that you speak up anytime, whenever you notice any case of child abuse. Unfortunately, we will not be able to take the other signs. I will try to do that in another episode. We'll look at some of the signs of emotional abuse, the signs of sexual abuse, and of course, that of neglect, so that when you see these signs, you can speak up for the child. It is very, very important. And on a last note, please, I want to beg you, if you are out there, you have another child around you going through any form of abuse, please do speak up. It is your responsibility. I want to say it is your responsibility. The child cannot speak up for his or herself. The child cannot fight for his or herself because they are still vulnerable. So it is your responsibility to speak up. It is your responsibility to fight for the child. So speak up, report to the police, report to Ministry of Women Affairs, report to any NGO around you, and you can also contact me. Yes, my name is CYRIL ISI. You can reach me on any of my social media platform. On Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter is at CYRIL ISI. I will definitely take up the case because I am a child rights activist. Definitely, I'll take it up. If you can reach me and report any case of child abuse, fine. Definitely, Ministry of Women Affairs will definitely hear it, and the police will definitely be involved in it. So once again, I want to say thank you for joining us on today's episode of the program. I want to especially thank all those involved, the social media manager, our camera operators, and of course, my producer for the program. I want to say thank you. Thank you very much for making this possible. I want us to do this again next time. Please, let's do this again next week, the same time, Thursday, 2 to 3 p.m., the same station. And, of course, I'll be with you. God bless you.
Pep Radio. We are professionals on this field. We are